Our discussion. Okay, so start recording. Now, yes. So you are able to see the slides, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you remember, so the last class, we have started looking at these bolted connections. So we were looking like, you see, one problem is strength of one bolt is fine, but generally when you design a joint, say, generally in our structure analysis, you have already been taught, like redundancy. Always, you should have a, alternative solutions also. Okay. So although the design may say one bolt, but we will provide, you see, more number of bolts such that you followed, right? You will be more connection has to be designed in a very safe kind of a fashion. Okay. So when you want to arrange the bolts, say, okay. So the of course the first thing is the bolt size of the whole matter. So this also we discussed in previous class. So the arrangements when you want to do, there are a lot of things are there. You can do, chain bolting, staggered way, diamond way, variety of things are there. The most important thing is you should know how to arrange these bolts, the distances. Okay, that is a pitch, then the gauge or longitudinal pitch, transverse pitch, the end distance, and then you see this edge distance. So they matter a lot actually. Okay, so this you have to design. So last class I told you, so these what was a criteria on how we decided the pitch. So pitch, what is the criteria? What is the minimum value? On what basis, these things have come into picture? So if pitch is very, very small, so what happens?
Intersection of influence area.
No, intersection of, so what happens? Stress concentration. So now what is the maximum value of stress concentration? Now what is the value we got near the hole?
2.
Suppose
3 times
P
P
by
P A. P by
3
A.
times P by A, not PA, P by A. Okay. So stress, so that influence will come. Suppose if it is too long, say, then we have a problem of, the joint may not be so efficient, and then, the load carrying but the bolts may not be same. And then you see local buckling also may happen because the plates are so thin. So these problems are there. So based on that, you see, so our code guy suggests, a lot of guidelines. Okay, 2.5 times D. Then, if it is a compression, so what should be the minima, maxima? Both the ranges, the code clearly specifies. Okay, so the end distance, edge distance, say like 1.7 times hole diameter, 1.5 times, So this also, all these details are provided in the code itself. Then we also discussed tacking bolts also. Okay, so this happens generally in the trusses when you are joining two members, say through a gusset plate or something. So these two members also should be joined somewhere, not only at the connection, at other places also. Okay, otherwise, the local buckling also may happen. So these bolts are known as a tacking bolt. So this also we discussed in the last class. Then finally we went to this connections. Okay, so there are three type of connections: simple, eccentric, and movement resisting connections. We will see all these details. So first thing is the simplest actually, this lap and butt joints. Okay, which are widely used in the truss members itself. Okay. So this untension members, you see, this type of things, so which are very easy to solve first. So beam to column connections, bending, you may have to do some extra analysis here, but lap joint, butt joint are the simplest. Okay, so this is a typical lap joint I showed you, like two plates, but the problem in lap joint is you will be having eccentricity. Okay, so which may lead to some type of a bending, and some other problems may come up after some time. Okay. Then butt joint, if it is a double cover, say, so then everything is perfectly fine. Now our code also gives a guideline. Suppose if you are using a single cover butt joint, say, so the thickness of this cover plate should be 1.25 times T. Okay, so this is a guideline where T is the thickness of the main plate. Okay, so if you are joining let us say two main plates of thickness, some 20 mm, say, so the cover plate should be, if it is a single cover, it should be 1.25 times T. Suppose if it is a double cover plate, say, so the thickness of this plate should be 0.625 times T. So this is a guideline, say. And of course the length and width of the cover plate, say, that will be decided by how many number of bolts are there, such that they cover the entire this itself. Okay, so this some guidelines are there. What should be the thickness of the cover plates? What should be the thickness of this one? So these guidelines also have come up, by some type of failures, local buckling, if the plates are too thin, say, then you may have some other issues. If they are too huge, right, then it may be uneconomical kind of a thing. So we have, so based on this, you see, the code clearly specifies this thicknesses also. Okay, some guidelines have been provided. So now among the single cover, this butt joint, then the double cover butt joint. So this is like symmetry kind of a thing you will be having. So here once again, above you are adjoining, below there is no cover plate. So, you may see these type of failures also. Okay. So now the same thing I'm showing. So the same lap joint and the butt joint. So let us see how to design or how to do this, lap joint and then butt joint. Okay. So same thing I'm showing you. So this is a lap joint, double bolted lap joint. Then, eccentricity will be there. Single cover, say, bolted joint, So this is single cover, double bolted butt joint. So this is all terminology, we will use, like double cover, single bolted butt joint, because there is only one row of bolts, on this side of the cover plate, this side of the cover plate. Then double cover, double bolted. So two bolt lines, are there actually. Okay. So like that, you see the terminology, where people use in, many textbooks. Okay. So this is how a double cover butt joint looks like. Now, only thing between lap joint and butt joint, if you see, the shear plane, say, so you will be having one shear plane here. So you will be having one shear plane because only both the things are connected in a lap joint. But if you are having a double cover butt joint, say, so you will be having, you see, one shear plane here, two shear planes here. So that is why you see this double, things comes into picture actual. Okay. So double in bolts in double shear we say. So now we should know how to design these bolts. So now the bolts say that the load transfer mechanism happens in two ways in bolts. One is a bearing type mechanism we say. Okay. So this is applicable for ordinary bolts, that is a black bolts, RM 4.6 grade, these type of bolts. So here, as already I told you, right, when you are joining the two plates, say, so these two can slip also. There will be no friction, will not get any generated here. So the load carrying capacity, say, happens via shear bearing kind of a thing. Okay, so these are the two things which happens in the ordinary bolts. Now there is another thing, load transfer slip resistant connection. So we have seen last class, clamp force and other things also. So because you are tightening the bolts, right, this HSFG bolts, that is 8.8 and 10.9. So these are very, very high strength bolts. So you can turn them, you can make them strong by this, the connections 3/4, I showed you in the last class also. So here the load transfer happens via friction basically between the plates itself. So this is, so you have to do, so if you are designing HSFG bolts, say, so you may have to do one extra thing, that is load transfer by friction itself. And then these HSFG bolts also, what happens is, if you see the, so now, so this happens via friction itself. But in this HSFG bolts, what happens is, initially the load will be carried by friction capacity, that is the dominating one. But after some time, say, when you keep on increasing the load, say, the friction capacity that may give up. Okay. So then, you will find out slip there also. So once once it has slipped, say, so then you have to design this bolt as once again, a bearing type mechanism itself. Okay. So these three we have to see. So how to, bearing type, that is load transfer, how it happens by shear, then the bearing, this one, then the friction, all these things we have to see. So now, so this design, say, so the design strength, I should say, okay, the design strength of a bolts or a joint. Okay. So the design strength of bolts and joints, say, and join together also. Okay. So how many type of failures can happen, so this depends on the strength calculation, say, this depends on failures. So, in how many ways a joint can fail. Okay. So how many ways are there? Or how many possibilities, you see, how many ways, a joint can fail. So this is the criteria. So this you have to understand before we do this, in the design itself. How these bolted joints, say, they fail in practice. So there are several ways are there. One is, shearing happens. Okay. So this portion, say, you can see the bolt has just, sheared off. Okay. Then if it is a double cover butt joint, say, so you will be having two shear planes. So this is what we call as, the shear failure of the bolts itself. Then we can have bearing failure also, where this bolts here the compressive strength will get exceeded. So automatically you see this bearing happens. So this is what we call as a bearing failure also. Sometimes it's a shear tear out, we'll say, okay, because the plate may be very, if you have not provided the end distance properly, say, so the shear tear out also happens of the plate. Then tension failure will happen. Then you have this block shear failure also. So these are the fundamental, the mode shapes, you can say, the how many ways the bolt can fail itself. I will just show you some, the videos are already available in YouTube, some nice videos on how these failure patterns look like for better, the understanding. So if you go to here, so you can see now. So this is basically, a shear failure of a bolt itself. Okay, so you can see here. So this is a lap joint. You are able to see, right?
Yes, sir.
Mhm. So you can see this is a lap joint, okay, with a single bolt. He has not used any, just toy kind of a problem he has done. So now you can see how then it is a lap joint, and both the plates are in tension. So this plate is pulled upwards, this plate is pulled the downwards kind of a thing. So now you just see how the failure happens here. So you can see the plates have already started moving, because these are not HSFG bolts, they are just ordinary bolts. Okay, so you can see the bolt has just sheared off. Okay, so the bolt has become into two pieces kind of a thing itself. So this is what we call as the shear failure. Now similarly you can also see one more plate theory. Yes, block shear. Now, so this is also just the video kind of a thing. You can just see the animation here also. Okay, so single shear, double shear, say. So this is so how it just shears off. So here you can see there are basically two shear planes are there. Okay, so now I think one more thing was there. Where is that? This is also shear failure. So you can see. So this is a typical test. Two bolts are there here. So you can watch the bottom, these two bolts. Okay, how the failure happens. So this whole plate is under tension, so it is pulled in the upward direction, and he keep on increasing the load, so it is slightly slow it goes. You just watch the bottom two bolts, not the top ones, because failure happens here. That is how he has designed the test. Now I think it has already started. Okay. See, suddenly, the bolt you followed it just got, sheared off from this thing itself. So this is what we call as, you see, the shear failure of the bolts itself. Okay. So this is a shear failure. Now let us see other bearing failure also. So you can see this will show you the bearing failure, how it happens, in the bolted joints. So you can see the bottom, the two ones. You can see the bottom bolts, near the bolt holes, if you just see the near the bolts, say how the failures are going to happen. You can see some small this plate, here something is happening. Okay. You can see already the bolt has started, you followed, right? That bearing things have started becoming near the bottom bolts. You can see two bolts here. You can see slowly, the plate is getting, the teared off or whatever you see here. Now you can clearly see the plate, it is visible here, the whole, you see, it is almost visible here. You can see almost, so you can, these bolts have come, the plate has almost teared off kind of a thing when you see this type of failures. So now this is also, I think this is also, you see the plate tearing. So, we have seen single shear, double shear failure. So bearing also, so this failure also we have seen. Now you will see the shear tear out actually. See how the plate just, the shears off. Now, so this also you can see. So you see, so this is also, a simple lap joint with one bolt. Now you can see previously we have seen shear bolt has become two pieces. Now you can see the plate, how it has teared off. So you can see, so this is what we call as, you see, the plate tearing. This is also bearing only, but the plate, you see, come out of this, this itself. So this is also one more, the failure, the shear tear out, this plate also we say. So then other failures also are there. So like, so this is also, this is a block shear. This is a 10 shear strength. Yes, failure to this one. So like this, we have several type of failures are there. So this also videos are available where the plate just gets teared off also. Now the most problematic thing or the most challenging thing is a block shear actually, where the whole joint, you see, it comes out. This is the most, the thing. So let us see this one also. Where is this block shear? Yes. So you can see this video. So this shows you, the block shear. So you here, all of you see this top joints actually. Okay, the top 4 bolts are there. Say, so what is happening near the top 4 bolts? So as you keep on increasing the load, say. Okay, so you can see the full joint itself, has gone out actually. That's what we call as, you see, the block shear failure. So these top 4 bolts are there, right? So the 4 bolts, you can see how the plate has come out at all these, the bolts. So you can see this plate has completely, has come out. So this we call as, you see, the block shear failure. It's a complete, the thing has gone down. So these you can see it has almost, the broken kind of a thing. The joint itself, it has come down. I think one more also is there for block shear. Yes, this also is there. So this is also, I think it shows a simple angle section under block shear. So you can see. So these are the 2 bolts. So this is an angle section. So here it shows one leg. Here it shows another leg. Okay. So if you see this one, say, so you can see how things are failing. So this angle section is pulled in the upward direction, is in tension. So for block shear failure, say, see how it, I don't know how to remove this. So you can see how these things have come out actually. Okay. So for the block shear, say, simply, how the plate has, almost given up. So bolts are fine, but the plates, it just, goes up. So this way, there are several failures, you can visualize. So there are nice videos are there, you can watch also. So shear failure, it happens like this. Then we have a double shear, but this happens only in, that double cover butt joints kind of a thing. Then the bearing happens, shear tear out also. Then we have a tension failure, then the block shear. So in block shear, the whole joints, that is a complete, the the bolt set itself, it's just, tears off from the plate itself. So now your design says, so these are the basic fundamental, the mode shapes. So people have done a lot of experiments and then they found out that these are the possible failures. So now when you're designing a joint or when you're designing a bolt, say, so now your design strength should be such that, you know, it's all these failures, say, okay, it should be able to sustain. So that is the design criteria. Okay, so this is what we say the bearing failure. So now in the bearing failure, say, so what happens, you followed it, you have already seen also. So automatically you see the plate, you followed the compressive strength gives up, and then, you know, so the bolt area also, so it may lose this area kind of a thing. So this happens. So this we call as, you see, the bearing failure of a bolt. And of course the plate also may be, you know, the fail itself, the plate itself may, you know, shear off or whatever, you know, so this also happens. So this is what they say. So this is also a figure. So shear planes. So now when you are having a bolt, you have seen in that, you know, the failure mode also, when that lap joint, the bolt has become into two pieces. So this portion is my shear plane actually. Okay, so you can see. So this is my shear plane to calculate the area. Okay, so this, you know, once you know the, you know, the stress, you multiply by this, then you can find out how much shear force it can transform. Now suppose if it is a double shear, say, so then you will be having two shear planes, one here, then another one, you know, the here itself. So two shear planes are possible here. Now when you are having a bearing deformation, say, so this is a bearing area. So bearing area is basically, you know, so this portion, you see, you have to take up actual. Okay, so this is D into T or something, I will write down also. So this we will try to find out. So then tearing of the main plate, say, so here also this is the area. Okay, the possible area, you know, how it has sheared off. Then we have, you know, the tear out, shear behind the connector, you see, too close to the edge, you know. So we will see all these type of failures itself. So now the most important thing is the bearing thing, the shear thing, and then the block shear, which you have to check up, and then of course the plate also you have to check the strength itself. So for any bolted connection, say, so this is how, you know, we design. So if it is a HSFG bolt or if it is ordinary bolt, you know, this is how the design connection will be. So initially, if you plot the force versus displacement of the connection, okay. So for a bolted connection, say, so initially the force, whatever force you are applying on the joint, it will be, you know, handled by this friction. The frictional force will come. Once, you know, it has exceeded the frictional capacity, so then automatically the slip happens actually. Then automatically, you know, the load will be carried by bearing, and then this shear strength. Okay, and then finally, you see, it leads to collapse. So now for HSFG bolts, say, so this will be, you know, very, of course, the friction will be very dominant. Suppose if it is our ordinary bolt, say, so it will not be having any friction. So your stress strain curve, say, you can directly, you know, start from, you see, the here itself actually. Okay, for ordinary bolts itself. But HSFG bolts also, once friction has given up, say, then, you know, it also becomes like a ordinary bolt itself. So so that is how we see one design. So HSFG bolt, say, okay, becomes ordinary bolt itself, same as ordinary once frictional capacity has been exceeded. Okay, after you know, the frictional capacity, say, you know, is exceeded. So ordinary bolts, you know, no friction will be there, no clamping. So just shear and bearing kind of a thing only will happen. So now how do we calculate the shear strength of a bolt, and then you see the bearing strength of a bolt. Now for shear strength, say, okay, so now this is a bolt shear. So the maximum will be, these are the planes here, and you have seen the failures also, you know, so these are the planes. So now, so what is the area here? So which area you have to find out. So this is for double shear, and these for the single shear. So these are the one shear plane only will be there. Okay, and you have bearing stresses also. So these are the two shear planes when it is a double cover butt joint. So one shear plane here, another shear plane here itself. So now, as already I told you, so the load for ordinary type connections, so it is the, you know, the load transferred is larger than the frictional resistance. So, you know, the slip, so bolts have to be designed as a shear and bearing. So this is for ordinary bolts. Okay, and of course, as already I told you, so whenever you are having any connections, say, so how many number of bolts you have. So first of all, you have to find out the strength of each and every bolt, and then you know, you multiply by the number of bolts, say, you should get the total load. So the total load transferred, say, is, you know, strength of each and every bolt multiplied by the total number of bolts. That gives you, you know, the strength of the bolt itself, the bolted connection. Okay, if you want to find out the strength of individual bolts, say, so then, you know, so if the load is 100 and you are having 10 bolts, so each bolt should carry, you see, 100 by 10. So uniform, you know, so this is our assumption, okay, in designs. Okay, so we assume that the load carrying capacities of all the bolts is same. So the total load, if it is P say, and if the number of bolts are N, so each bolt will carry P by N load itself. And this also I told you already. So we always give redundancy, and already our design philosophy is our connection failure should happen after bearing sorry that the member failure. So that is how we are designing. So the bolts have to be designed extra safe. So although you would have calculated if you have got one bolt, so you have to provide minimum of 2 to 3 bolts because of the redundancy. So this we have to take care. Okay. So you have to design. Then the strength of a bolt, say. So you have to find out the bolt strength in shear, then bearing, and all other things you have to do. And finally, say which is a minimum. So if I get in shear some 80 kilonewtons, say, bearing gives me some 100 kilonewtons, tension gives me some 120, say. So whichever is minimum, so that you have to design. So the minimum of the strengths, you say, this is our design philosophy. Then so the strength of a joint, say, okay, so already I told you. So strength of a bolt you find out, multiply with the number of the bolts. So this gives me the strength of a joint. So this also I showed you, both of them are same. Okay. So if you want to find out for one bolt, say total load you take, you divide by the number of bolts, that will give you for individual. But if you want to find out the strength of a joint, say, you just find out the one bolt strength, multiply by the number of bolts, you can have this one. And then for bolted connection, when you say failure of a bolted connection, say, so there are two types of things are there. One is a bolt failure, other one is a plate failure also. If plate fails also, the joint goes away. If bolt fails also, joint goes away. So you have to do two checks actually. Okay, so bolt things you have to check, then plate failure also you have to check. Okay, so whichever is minimum, so that is our strength of a joint. So strength of a joint means, so you have to find out the plate strength, you have to find out bolt strength, and then in bolt strength we have three categories: shear, bearing, tension. All these categories will be there. Whichever is a minimum, you have to find out. So finally, so after you calculate the bolts and then the plate, whichever is minimum, say, that is the strength of a joint. Okay. So this is what we say. So the strength of a joint will be the minimum of strength of the joint on the basis of strength of the bolts and the net tensile strength of the plate actually. So this is the design, how we do the design. Okay, so the ordinary bolts, shear, bearing. If it is HSFG, friction also you have to verify. Okay, then how many number of bolts are required, say. So whatever load you want to transfer, you find out strength of one bolt, you divide it, so that tells you the number of bolts. And generally if you get 4 bolts as a solution, so you give 5 bolts. Okay, so it has to be redundancy kind of a thing has to be there. And if you want to calculate strength of individual bolt, it is a minimum of the strength, bolt strength in shear, bearing, and tension. Then if you want to find out the strength of a joint based on the basis of bolts, then you multiply with the number of bolts with the strength of a bolt, you will get the total strength of the joint. But failure of a joint means, you have to do bolt fails also is a failure, plate fails also is a failure. So both you have to verify whichever is the minimum, say, that is the strength of the overall the joint itself. So these are the steps. So now to calculate the shear strength, say, okay, so our code gives the formulas. Okay, so this is a design formula given in our IS code. So you can see that the chapter that 10, okay, in our IS code. So you have the slip resistance or the shear strength of a bolt. Okay, is given by this expression of the bolt. Okay, so this is the expression you see given in the code. So FUB, so they define all these the things itself. Okay, so A and B, say, so this is nothing but the net tensile the area, net tensile area, stress area, say, this is the area. Now when the shear plane, say, it passes through the unthreaded portion of the bolt, so then this becomes the shank area. Okay, so where is the shear plane here? So now which is the shear plane? What is the area of the shear plane? If it passes through the the shank, and if D is the diameter of the bolt, say, so what is the area? Shear plane area. What is the shear plane area?
Pi d square by 4.
Pi d square by 4. Okay. Now suppose if the shear plane passes through thread, say, we have seen, right, the previous also. So what will be the area? Now, like yesterday I told you, one table is there, but there is one thumb rule is there. How many times you have to multiply? I think I will show you that slide also. So what is that thumb rule? Have you seen here? This one, net tensile area. What is the net tensile area? If I know the area of the shank, say, which is a pi d square by 4, so the net tensile area will be how much?
0.78 times.
0.78 times. Okay, so that means, you know, if the shear plane, say, is passing through the this portion, actually the thread portion. If the shear plane passes through here, then pi d square by 4. So this is my shear plane. Okay, so this you have to calculate. So this is my shear plane. You can see in this figure also. So this is a shear plane where the bolt has got, you followed it, the sheared off. So pi d square by 4. So these are the partial, you know, the safety factors actually, which are given in the code, that gammas. I have shown you the limit state, you know, that the previous units we have seen, right? Limit state of, I think the yielding factors they have given 1.25, 1.5 or something. You see, those things will be there. Okay. Now, when you are having multiple shear planes, say, okay, so because in double cover butt joint, what happens is, you know, when you are having here, so this plane may pass through shank portion sometimes. Okay, and this plane may pass through the thread portion also. So this also may happen. Okay, so one plane this side, one plane this side. But generally in lap joint, you know, it will be in shank only. But in double cover butt joints, because the joint is thick, sometimes, you know, one shear plane may have the top one in shank, the bottom will in the thread itself. So then the code says, you know, you have to add, you followed it, both of them. So NN, NS will be there. So NN is nothing but the number of shear planes passing through the threaded and unthreaded portions actually. So NS stands for shank. S stands for shank and NN stands for net tensile area. That is nothing but the thread. Okay. So this is the guideline. And then our code also gives you, you know, so these 3 reduction factors are there actually. 3 betas will be there. So beta LF, then beta LG, then beta, you know, PKG. Okay. So this indicates the long joints. So beta LF says. So these are the reduction factors. Okay. So this is a long joints. And this is for the grip length actually. So beta LG. So G stands for grip. Okay. And then beta, you know, PKG. So this stands for packing plates. So when you are having these type of criteria, these things, the strength of a joint reduces actually. Let us see what is the long joint. Okay. So for long, just the same expression I'm showing you here. Okay. So the number of, so here the shear plane passes through the thread. So, you know, you have to use that area. Here the shear plane passes through the shank area. Okay. The same thing. Yeah. So now these are the reduction factors. Okay, so for the long joints, the strength automatically you have to reduce actually. What do you mean by a long joint? So definition says when the length of a joint exceeds 15 times the diameter. Okay, D is the nominal diameter of the bolt. Then, you know, you have to reduce by this, you know, the expression where LJ is the length of the joint and D is the diameter here. Okay, so this is what we say. You can see here the LJ, this is the length of a joint actually. So this LJ, if there are too many, you know, bolts are there. Okay, so when the joint is very, very long actually. So now what happens? Suppose, you know, if I have a joint like this, say, now what will be the load carried by all these bolts? See how many bolts are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts are there. So total load is, you know, F. So what will be the load carried by each and every bolt?
F by 10.
F by 10 actual. But you know, bolt is F by 10. Now do you think it will be uniform? No. So this is an assumption. Okay. Which bolts will carry more load here? Tell me. In reality.
Outer bolts.
Now you know, we assume that all the bolts, the load carrying, suppose is 10 bolts are there, so 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. So our assumption is all the bolts will carry same load actually, F by N, F by 10, F by 10, F by 10. But in reality, what happens? In reality, what happens? So which bolts will carry more load? These outer bolts essentially. Okay, this bolts, they will carry more the load. And when it comes internal, say what happens? How the load distribution it will be? It will be something, you know, it will not be uniform. Something like this. You followed, right? So the distributions will be like this also. You followed. So our assumptions here, but our assumption is all bolts will carry same load actually. Okay, that is how that formula has been derived. Okay, but in reality, when the bolts are very, very long joints, then you have a problem. It will not be uniform, you know, so the strength has to be reduced. So that is why our code specifies, you know, so what do you mean by long joint? So length of the joint should exceed 15 times. Clearly it specifies. This is what the long joint. Suppose if you are below 15 times the diameter, then you know, this assumption of uniform load that holds good. So you can use the same formula, and beta Lj will be 1 itself. Okay, but if the length of the joint is too much because of non-uniform kind of a thing, then you have to reduce the design strength by this load, and it lies between 0.75 to 1. So this is the minimum is 0.75. And maximum is of course 1 when the joint is not long, so then it will be 1. So this is the most important thing. Okay, so this is the one you should and then we have for large grip length also. What do you mean by grip? Previously, you know, we have discussed also. What do you mean by grip? Long, I think previously I have shown you also. What do you mean by grip? Now grip, what do you mean by grip? I think I showed you right long back. I think when it comes to rivets or somewhere I would have shown. No. What do you mean by grip? You can see here. Now this is one plate, this is one plate. So what is a grip here? Now, what do you mean by grip actually? So what is that? So you have a length of the bolt is one thing. Okay. So when you are inserting inside these plates, the portion, how much it is inside these two plates, that is what we call as a grip. So I think, you know, we can, you can see here also. So now, you know, where grip is more, if I take the single cover and double cover, say, what is the grip length here? This is the grip actually for my bolt. Okay. So this is my grip length. Now here the grip length is this much only. Now if I take this joint, so the grip is this much actually. Okay, that is nothing but grip is nothing but the thickness of the main plate plus your cover plates. So how much your bolt is inside the joint. So this we call as, you see, the grip actually. Okay, so now what happens when the grip is too long? Now suppose if I have a, you know, grip is too long, say this plate, and then you know other plate is there. Okay, the grip length is very long actually. So this is my bolt, say. Okay, so my grip length is this portion. Now I have small grip length also. Now what happens as the grip length is increasing? What will happen? Now what will happen if the grip length increases, or the thickness or whatever you see, it is increasing, say. Essentially it happens in, you know, the butt joints. Okay, now when the grip length is increased, say, now what happens? What is that you see here? This portion is increasing. Now what happens? This portion. So when grip increases, what will happen?
Larger portion of the bolt will have to face the stress.
Larger faces. No, if you talk in terms of, see, these bolts are generally, you know, shear is there, then you have that bearing, or you follow the tension is there. Now when the grip length is large, you say, what happens? What other force will come extra? What extra things you have to do? See the same grip one. So the same one, if you rotate in 90 degrees angle, say, so this is the grip of the bolt. Okay, so this is my bolt grip. Now this P is like this. And these two ends, this end, say, let us assume that they are fixed kind of a thing. Now what happens?
Bending.
Bending will come into picture. If the grip is too long, say, then see, it is like if the grip is too long, grip you have, and then you apply load, say, then what happens? You will have, you know, bending movements and other things also will come into picture. If the grip is very, very small, say, then you know, the bending will be very, very small. So the large grip means you followed it, bending will come. But we have not designed for bending. We are saying only shear strength only, you followed it. So what happens? Bending moment, shear force, they are related, you know, right? What's the relationship between bending moment and shear force? We have studied, no, bending moment and shear force. What's the relation?
Shear force is the slope of bending moment diagram.
Fantastic. So now, so what happens when the grip is large, say, so bending will come. So when bending will come, you followed, right? You know, the other kinds of problems will come, shear and others. So the shear capacity of the bolt has to be reduced actually when the grip lengths are very, very long itself. So this also you have to check, you know, the grip length. So whenever you are doing this, you know, design, say, you have to check how much grip length you have, whether there is any chance of bending moment coming. So obviously your shear strength has to be reduced. So that's why you see, because bending moment, shear force, both of them are interlinked, say, through a derivative or something like that. So this has to be reduced. So this is also one reduction factor for large grip lengths. Then we have one more reduction factor for packing plates. So this packing plate problem comes if I want to join this plate, say. So this is my plate, okay, which is a 20 mm thick. And then this plate I want to join to a 15 mm plate actually through a, you know, I have another plate which is 15 mm. And I want to go for, you know, the double cover butt joint. How do I connect this one? Plates are of non-uniform thicknesses. And I have a cover plates which have a thickness of, you know, that 0.625 times 20. So two cover plates are there. One cover plate I will put here. Another cover plate also I will put here. But my problem is, you know, the two main plates, say, one thickness is 20, another one is 15 mm. So how do I connect them to double cover butt joint? What is that I have to do? See, I have to connect two plates. One plate is 20 mm, another plate is some 15 mm thick actual, okay, and I want to go for a double cover butt joint. So here, you know, I have, because the thicknesses are not uniform, say, so I am short of, you see, this is a 5 mm thickness here. So what do we do in practice? So this portion, say, we fill up with another plate actual, okay, that is what we call as, you see, a packing plate. So this is just a packing, you know, kind of a thing. I think here you can see the figure. So this is my one plate, okay. So this is my main plate which is located here. And then I have another plate which, sorry, this is my main plate, okay, so which is located here, and I have another plate, say, which has you know, different thicknesses actually. So now to make it, you know, to connect it to the main plate, say, so because there are non-uniform thicknesses, I have to provide a packing plate. Of course, you know, it depends whether you want to put packing plate on the top or bottom, or you can even, you know, put half here also we can do. So these packing plates we provide to connect. So now here what is happening is I don't have two plates. I'm connecting a main plate, two main plates. Apart from that, I'm also having a packing plate also will come into picture. So then the code also says that your strength of the joint will get reduced actually. Okay, so this is the thickness of the packing plate. So beta pkg you have to estimate from this expression itself. So shear strength of a bolt, you know, is fine, perfectly fine, but you have to reduce for three things. One is for a long joints, because, you know, the forces will not be uniform. Then you have a large grip length, because bending moment comes, and bending moment, shear force, both of them are interlinked through a derivatives. So this also will be reduced. Then if you have a packing plate, but this problem is a very special, you know, where you are joining two main plates of different thicknesses. This may also, we may have to do it in the practice. Then you have to provide, you know, for this additional, you know, a packing plate has to be done, so that, you know, its thickness will be same as a 20 mm itself, but then also your shear strength will have to be reduced. So these are the three multiplying factors, you know, reduction factors for the shear strength of a plate itself. Now next comes the, so shear strength, you know, so this formula is given in the code, you can see this, and shear plate, it's straightforward actual, okay, and his ultimate tensile strength or whatever you followed it, the code clearly specifies. So FUB is ultimate, you know, the tensile stress of the bolt, the number of shear planes, you know, passing through the thread area, through the shear area, then these are the reduction factors. So if you know all these three, so you can calculate the shear strength of a single bolt itself. Comes, you see, the bearing, you know, the bolt itself. So now in a bearing, say, what will be the bearing area? You would have studied in, you know, whenever you have a bolt, say, what will be the bearing area? So this is my connection. Okay. So this is my, this one, say, okay. So what will be the bearing area? Generally, how do you calculate bearing areas? So the bolt is here. How the load is getting transferred? What will be the bearing area? if d is the diameter of the the hole, or r is the radius, and t is the thickness, this itself. So what will be this one? So t is the thickness of the plate, say, which is this quantity. What will be the bearing area? How the load is getting transferred from the plate to the bolt, or bolt to the plate actually. So sorry, I think if you draw properly also. Now what will be the bearing area?
2 pi r t.
2 pi r into t. So 2 pi r means this. What is 2 pi r? That is the circumference you are telling.
Yes, sir. Circumference into the height.
So the bearing will be this. This kind of a thing will be there. You follow. So that is how the bearing comes into picture. But in reality, what do we do? So it will be the force is transformed. Force is transferred from the bolt to the plate on this semicircular you followed, right? This type of a thing will be there. But generally in mechanics, what do you do to calculate the bearing area?
Projected area. We use a projected area.
Projected area. So what is the projected area here?
2r into t.
2r into t. Fantastic. You would have studied in engineering mechanics also, you remember. So this is a bearing area we do, the projected one. So the 2r into t or d into t itself actually. So this is my bearing area. So shear is different. That is, this portion is a shear plane. But whereas bearing, say, we project it actually as a rectangular kind of a thing. So d into t is my bearing area. So that is how the bearing failure also I showed you. So this is the formula in our given in our code. So dt is the bearing area. Okay, and these are all the factors of safety you followed, right, by experiments and others. These things comes to 2.5. Then gamma mb anyway is that limit state, that safety factor per strength. Fu is the tensile, the stress of that material itself. Then so this is kb. So it gives you one more empirical factor which you have to include. So it depends where the kb, so this kb depends on where your bolt is located actually. So if the bolt is located very close to the edge, say, what happens? Like we have seen the failures, right? So like for example here, if the bolt is located very, very close to the edge, what happens here? And then you are applying the load, say. I have shown you the figures also, right? What happens?
Compression.
So compression with what type of failure you will be having when it is, if you have not provided a proper edge distance, end distance, say, we have seen, right? The plate gets, I showed you those videos, no? The edge distance, end distance, if you have not provided, say, see, like, the bearing, once the plate starts moving here, so you will see these type of things, okay? So it depends on your edge distance, end distance from the, this end also. So for that, what the code says is, you have to take this KB is the smallest of KD, FU by FU or 1 actually, where KD is defined as E1 by 3DH. E1 is nothing but your edge distance. We remember long back, edge distance we have, and 3 is the diameter of the hole actually. And KD, so this also you have to verify P by 3 times, where P is the pitch actually. Okay, by 3 times DH, diameter of the hole, minus 1 by 4. This is an empirical formula, or 1. So what you have to do is for end bolts you have to use this expression, for inner bolts say use this expression, and then whichever is smaller, say, that you have to use it, and then calculate my design the bearing strength. So this is how the code specifies. Okay, so this is the same thing only. So this is given in our IS code. I have just copied here. So you calculate, so the same expression, dt is my bearing area. So I have fu, and then kb, that is a, you followed it. You have to smaller of, I see, these things, say. So then whichever is small, you have to use this and then use in the value. And finally, the design value will be, so you have to divide by this partial safety factor, which is provided in the table given in the code itself. Okay, so this way you can find out, you see, the bearing strength of a bolt itself. So generally, you know, this KB say, this KD, it is very easy to find out. See, already we are having a guidelines. Okay, what should be the minimum pitch distance, minimum edge distance, minimum end distance, and the maximum values also. So we can plug in, like you see, the minimum value. What should be the minimum value of E1 and E2? No. You remember one table I showed you, the minimum edge distance, end distance, you know. No, where the table was. No. So what is the minimum edge distance you have to provide? No. Minimum is how much? You can see if it is a hand flame cut edge, say 1.7 times. If it is a rolled end, so 1.5 times hole diameter, and the minimum pitch also we know 2.5 times D, like that you see we give. So if I substitute my minimum values here, say approximately, you know, 1.5 times D by 3 times DH, it turns out to be 0.5. Then this formula 2.5 times D by 3 times DH, say 0.58, this turns out to be. So of course, if you take mild steel, say we already know, you know, 400, 410, the metal properties also are known. This turns out to be 0.975. So what is the minimum value here? Minimum of this, and minimum of this. What is the lowest value?
0.5.
0.5. So if you take the minimum value specified by the code set, so finally you followed it to substitute here. This is my expression which comes into picture, approximately like 1.25 times dtfu by gamma mb. Okay. So now so single lap joint. So this gives a nice, you know, the guidelines itself. So this way you can find out, this is the bearing strength. Then we can find out the shear strength. Now next comes this tensile strength also. Okay. So I will stop here. So we will see in the next class. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. Now stop recording.